Welcome to the Autism in Black podcast, where we focus on all things autism and the Black parent experience. Our goal is to always educate, support, and empower parents to advocate for not only their children, but themselves. I'm Maria Davis-Pierre, a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida and America's #1 autism advocate for Black parents. I'm the founder and CEO of Autism in Black Inc., where we aim to include the excluded.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Autism in Black podcast. I am your host, Maria Davis-Pierre, licensed mental health counselor and the CEO and founder of Autism in Black, Inc. Today, I am here with Cori Fonville Foster, who is a homeschooling mom, educator, and advocate with over 6 years of experience in personalized education. After transitioning her own neurodivergent child from traditional school to homeschooling, she has helped numerous neurodivergent students thrive in individualized learning environments. She has taught in multiple homeschool co-ops over the years and supported families during the COVID-19 pandemic by homeschooling traditionally public school children. Cori specializes in creating structured yet flexible learning experiences tailored to students' unique needs. Let's go ahead and dive into today's episode with Cori. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Autism in Black podcast. I am Maria Davis-Pierre, and I am here with someone who is very special. And usually they are working behind the scenes with Autism in Black, but today we have Cori here, who is going to be talking with us about homeschooling as liberation for Black autistic students. Welcome to the podcast, Cori.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
And I would love to start with your story. What led you to homeschooling and what shifted for your family once you stepped into that decision?
Oh my gosh, like we're starting with the hard stuff first. I never wanted to be a home educator. Never. Like it was not on my radar. It was not something I was called to, led to, thought about, considered. But I had two really different type of kiddos in my life. Well, actually, we'll say three. One of them was doing just fine. She actually had an IEP in the public school, but she was flourishing. And to this day, she's actually graduating in a couple of weeks. So I don't know when this is launching, but yes, we're getting one out of the nest. She's going into the military, so she made it. But the other two had some serious struggles. So we had my niece, who was actually adopted into, actually, she's my niece, cousin, sister, however you want to call it, but she was adopted into my family by my grandmother. But she was really struggling. She's a twin, and she was given an IEP, but in my state, basically, if one child is accepted into a specialty school, they go ahead and put the other child. And so the student who was doing really well got accepted into a really nice high advanced type school. So they just sent her twin, and she was not successful there at all. Her IEP essentially just said she's going to take up space. They didn't require her to do homework. There was no academic benchmarks. And I'll be honest, back then I did not know rights as parents, so I didn't know how to advocate, because if I knew, I would have done better. But I was like, these people are, the experts, or so I thought. And so they gave her this IEP, and it wasn't until probably her 5th grade year that we realized that she really couldn't read. She couldn't even do math on a calculator. And we were like, what is this? So that was our first kind of like, what can we do to help this student? But while that was going on, I had my son, who was also in the public school system, a very high academic achiever, who was not social. He was having a lot of behavioral outbursts. I was told, get him tested. He may have autism, something's going on. And so I had these two kids in my life. One, like I said, struggling academically, but fine socially. The other one, very academically successful, but struggling socially. And I'll be honest, I didn't want to homeschool, even though I was like, okay, maybe this is an option at some point. I didn't want to, because I said, these are the experts. Like, if they can't do it, then what are we going to do? But eventually, kind of long story short, it came to a head where the kids, the girl who was really struggling academically, we were like, if they've had all these years, if she can't read now, if she can't do math now, if she has no confidence now, it's not going to get better. They've had a lot of years to work on it. And like, we're like, let's just remove her and let's bring her home. And for my son, after they had lost him 2 times because he had ran away from the teachers, after they had sent him home, not on a real suspension, but basically a suspension, after being told that he's a disruption to the class, after him telling me he no longer wanted to go to school, he hated it. I said enough. And so we kind of then embarked on our homeschooling journey.
Hmm. And this leads me right on into our next question, because your story really has my mind going now. Every time I talk to Cori about homeschooling, she gets me a little bit more and more like, this is what I need to be doing. But traditional school settings often fail to affirm or even understand Black autistic learners. In your experience, what makes homeschooling such a powerful alternative?
I think it makes it a great alternative because it is truly customized learning. Like, I know that in public school, the IEPs and 504s are supposed to kind of help make it more of a customized learning experience or learning environment. But let's just be real. There's just not enough support out there a lot of the times. There's not enough support for the teachers. They don't have enough people to come into the classrooms. They don't have enough services to take your child out of the classroom and give them those supports. And so by bringing your child home, you have to create a learning experience for them that's tailored to them, because that's the only way the work is going to get done. So I think if you are looking for this understanding of like, how does my child learn, what curriculum is going to benefit my child, what kind of learning environment is going to benefit my child, the best option a lot of times is going to be to go ahead and create it in your home.
Hmm, I love that. And then can you talk about the emotional and cultural safety homeschooling can provide, especially for families who has failed to harm their child?
Yeah, so I know, just speaking from my experience and experiences that of parents that I've come in contact with, a lot of times public school was not just, oh, it didn't work out or it wasn't the best. It was traumatizing for our kids, especially when they got older, especially the Black boys. The Black girls, sometimes they got suspended, but a lot of times they were getting like in school suspension, or they were getting like reprimanded in the class, kind of like everybody knew like this was a problem child. We're gonna put quotes around it. But for our Black boys, they were almost demonized. Like, it was like, oh my gosh, get this thug, this gangster out of this classroom. This disruption cannot be tolerated. And let me back up, because I didn't say this in the earlier part. I was not the parent that just got the phone calls and talked to the teacher. I was the parent that came in the classroom. So I saw my little Black boy in the classroom. And yes, he wasn't always on task. And there were a lot of factors around that they didn't even care about. But I saw Billy and Sue and Tom also in that class cutting up, and they were always giving grace. Right? They were always giving grace. It was like, oh, well, maybe this is going on in the home. Maybe they're struggling because of this. Maybe somebody else is showing them this behavior that's making them do it. But it was never that same grace given to my Black son or Black children, Black boys of homeschooling parents that I know as well. And so I think that there's a lack of cultural understanding. I think there's also some biases, whether they are conscious or unconscious. Like, I don't even care at this point. They're there. And they really do cause harm to our children. And especially as they get older, they can have some serious repercussions where it's not just, oh, send them home. It's legal action being taken because they are, I don't even know the word, but I'm gonna call it gangstifying our young Black children that are neurodivergent. And it's not because that they are these horrible kids. It's because they are not being given the tools and the attention and the grace that they deserve.
And that is so true. And I think for a lot of Black parents, that's the frustration of it. Like, our children are adultified. They're not looked at as children. And it gets so tiring when the school is calling and calling and calling and wanting you to step in and wanting you to do this. But at the same time, a lot of parents feel overwhelmed or unqualified to homeschool, especially when they're navigating the ableism and the generational pressure to trust the school systems. What do you say to those parents like myself who are scared to take this leap?
I will say that if I can do it, you definitely can. I don't have a teaching bone in my body when it comes to kids. God blessed me with an amazing son, but he knew not to give me any more because I'm not that kind of person. Like I wasn't gonna get on the floor and do activities and read books with all the excitement. Like I still get wild when I see parents who can hold the book and they can add in the extra sound effects. Like that was not me. That was not me. But I think that if you are a parent who cares about your child, right? Period. Like that's the end of it. If you're a parent who cares about their child, then you are qualified to homeschool them because there are so many resources and curriculum out here and supports out here that they will fill in the gaps with all the teacher stuff, right? The education part. Your job is almost be that school principal, that school counselor that is really the safeguard around your child to ensure not only do they get the academic things that they need, but also that emotional wellness, that safety, that understanding, that grace that we talked about earlier. So yes, I get it. I definitely was like, how are we gonna do this? Like, how does this gonna work? But we've been homeschooling now for years. We started when my son was in first grade. He got halfway through first grade before I yanked him out. And then the other student was going into the sixth grade, but we actually brought her back down to third grade. And currently, at the time of this podcast, like I said, we have a senior graduating. We have an upcoming senior. So she's going to be entering her senior year. And my son, who is 13, is going into his sophomore year in high school. He's about to start dual enrollment. So we've been doing this for a while. And if, like I said, if I can do it, you can do it. I've seen so many amazing kids that have come from traditional school, come into the homeschool arena and really found themselves and have grown in confidence as a learner and have learned those same skills that the school acts like only they can teach your child. So it's definitely doable.
So what would be the first steps a parent can take to explore if homeschooling is right for their child, and how can they build a supportive village? What are the resources out there that we can start with?
Yeah, so if your child is currently in the public school system, one thing I would recommend is get all the free testing. I used to not say that because I'm like, I know you just want to yank your babies out now, but I will say because of the way healthcare is right now and all the things going on in the world, y'all know. Go ahead and take advantage of all the free testing. Go ahead and let the counselors talk to your kids, do all this stuff, get all the information, right? Because I think like during COVID, for instance, a lot of parents didn't know how their kids really were in classes till they saw it. And so you don't want to have to go through that challenge of being like, well, what does my child need? Where are they struggling? Go ahead and get all that information from the school, just so that you start off with a base of understanding of your child's needs and recommendations, things like that, because they do help you as you prepare to make your home the new school for your child. Once you do that, go ahead to the go to a website. It's HSLDA. So HSLDA, it's a great tool no matter where you are in the US because you can look up your state and find out legally what is required for you to be able to homeschool your child. Yes, you can go to Facebook groups. Yes, you can ask a friend, but I prefer for us to stay out of the orange wear and do it the right way. So this is a great tool that stays up to date on every single state. There are lawyers that are connected to this organization that specialize in homeschool rights. So HSLDA will be your next stop, just so that you understand how to successfully transition your child legally from the traditional school to a homeschool environment. For my state in Virginia, it's as simple as saying, hey, I'm taking my kid out of here, and then turning in a notice of intent along with my high school diploma, and then letting them know that I'm going to teach science, math, English, and social studies. That's it. And that's all I have to do to transition them out. Now, once you've done that, the next big step is, actually kind of simultaneously while you're doing that, is to just kind of figure out what curriculum you want to use, what type of homeschooler you want to be. Some parents are excited to be that person that's boots on the ground and you're going to put together materials. And some of us, like me, are like, where can I buy curriculum done for me? So I definitely would say there's something in everybody's budget, whether you're going to borrow from your library. Yes, they have curriculum. Oftentimes you can borrow. You can get secondhand curriculum. You can, we use a site website called Power Homeschool. It's a virtual curriculum where my children can go online. It's not live, so we have a lot of flexibility, but it grades itself. Which is nice. And they have everything from like preschool to AP classes, which is great for us. But then if you're really just excited to spend money, you can buy like a box curriculum, and those can get up into the thousands per kid. So a lot of variety, but you want to look at two things when you're thinking about curriculum. How does your child learn? And then how are you as an educator? Because if your child learns hands-on, but you do not do well with like keeping up and being organized and doing all the hands-on, you got to find something kind of in the middle. But I promise you, there is a curriculum that does exactly what you guys need.
I tell you, every time I'm just getting a little bit more and more, like I'm just like, oh, it's right there. It's right there. Like, and I think that COVID is what really scared me as a parent of teaching, because the twins were coming out of preschool and going into kindergarten. And I had to sit with them every single day on that computer while they were doing kindergarten. It was always, sit down, please look at the computer. Please just get through the day. Oh God. I was tired by the time 2 o'clock hit. And I was like, I don't know how these people do it, because it is not in me to teach these kids. I'm not even teaching. I'm just ensuring that they're sitting there getting the curriculum. It was, why don't stand up. Please don't stand up on the table. Please open the computer back. Please turn the camera on. And I think that gave me such a traumatic experience of what it could be like. It really deterred me. And from hearing you talk and hearing other people, they're like, that's not what homeschool is. That is not what you were in traditional school on online. That's what you were doing. So
Yeah.
in talking to you, it's like, oh, okay, they can maneuver, and they're old enough now to really just sit there, do their work, and have me check it. But yeah, that COVID threw your girl for a loop. I was like, I don't know how these people doing it out here.
No, but I do want to touch on that because a lot of people have that same experience. But you guys have to remember that when COVID was going on, you still had a teacher who was not used to teaching online, trying to wrangle in kids who were also not used to learning online, and it was live, right? So you were trying to basically bring the traditional school into your home. That is definitely not homeschool, because there's a lot of fluff and extra like fillers in public school, and it has to be there so that they have time to support other kids. They do small groups, they do read-alongs, they do a whole bunch of extra stuff. When you are at home, usually for the elementary years, it only takes about 3 to 4 hours max for one child to get through all their subjects, no matter what curriculum you're taking, because there's no other kids, right? You're not saying who has a question. Only one kid has the question. It isn't 30 kids. And so you having that frustration all day would not be your homeschool experience. Even if you decided to take, because you have, maybe you want to homeschool 2 out of the 3, or even 3 kids, you might homeschool them one at a time. The others may just be playing, and you say, I'm going to take 2 hours to do this kid, 2 hours, and then 2 hours, and then you're done. Also, who cares if they sit down? I had a kid, I came in here today, he was like leaned over the couch and doing his work. Who cares? He decided to get up today about 6 o'clock this morning because he wants his school year to be over. He said this was going to be the last week. So he's been waking himself up, getting on his curriculum. He can see it. I'm in the bed, sleep, enjoying my slumber. He's in here getting work done. My other kiddo finished a couple of weeks ago. She's done. Grades in. Everything's finished. And so I get that they're older, but even when they were younger, we had bouncy balls. They sat on not egg crates, milk crates. They stood up. They walked around and, listened to their lectures. We do not have to conform to that situation of being in traditional school. And we don't have to be here all day long. Some days they're done at 12. I'm like, if they want to be done, they're done, because we've already plotted out how many things they need to do each week. And if they get it all done Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then I guess they enjoy Thursday and Friday off. So you have a lot more flexibility where that wouldn't be an issue. I had a I had a homeschool friend. Her child had ADHD and a lot of impulse control. She would get up with those kids, and this is not me, couldn't be me, wouldn't be me, but she would get up with these kids, and they would go for like a mile bike ride in the morning to let them get out their energy. And then he could focus for like 2 hours and get his work done. like you can do those kind of things. I just tell my son to go get on the treadmill downstairs. Like I'm not going outside. But yes, you can adjust the environment to fit that child's needs. If they want to jump up and down the whole time the lecture's going on, who cares? Who cares? So that would be more freedom for you. So for any parents listening who went through the traumatizing COVID year or two, just know just know that it doesn't have to look like that. It shouldn't look like that, and it doesn't typically look like that.
Thank you for clearing that up for us. And I know that you've created the choice framework as a guide for personalized, empowered homeschooling. Can you walk us through what choice stands for and why each piece matters for Black neurodivergent kids?
Yeah, absolutely. So the choice framework is just a simple way to kind of explain what homeschool is and what it isn't, and kind of guide parents who are thinking about transitioning. Or some people are like, I don't even want to deal with public school. They're like, as soon as my child hits preschool, I want to have them in homeschool. So choice stands for, the C stands for customized education, which is probably the biggest draw to homeschool, is the fact that you can customize your child's learning experience. The H stands for holistic development. We are not just thinking about teaching to a test, right? I get why public school does some of the things they do, but we don't have to put ourselves in that system. So we can think about the whole child. We can think about their social emotional learning. We can think about coping skills. We can think about their mental health, right? On top of all the other things, because we are raising citizens. We are not just raising children, if that makes sense. The O stands for opportunities for growth, because outside of just, math, science, social studies, history, we get to take advantage of a lot more learning experiences. My kids have been in internships, they've done community service projects, they've traveled, and all of that has been a part of their homeschooling journey. The I stands for individualized support, because again, this is about that child. Even if you have multiple kids, I know some families that I have, 10, 7, 12 kids, but each one has this individualized plan that allows them to be successful in whatever success means to them, right? Because not every child's going to go off to college. Not every child's going to go to trade school. Not every child has the cognitive ability to do traditional schooling, if that makes sense. So they are allowed this individualized support through their schooling journey. And then the C stands for community and connection, because when you homeschool, it isn't just you by yourself. A lot of people are afraid of that, but there are so many resources out here, whether it's webinars, conventions, conferences, co-ops, meetup groups, Facebook groups, etc., along with all of our partners out here, our speech therapists, speech pathologists, counselors, etc., who support our amazing students. And then E is for empowered parents and empowered students, because you don't have to be like you were in traditional school where you were kind of at the mercy of the system. You are now empowered to make decisions as a parent. Your child is empowered to speak up for what they need. I'm always asking the kids, like, what is your plan? What do you want to do? Like, what are you excited about? What classes do you want to take? How do you want to structure your day? And it allows these kids to really learn how to be adults without adultification, right? It allows them to say, well, I work best in the afternoon. Can I do my harder classes in the afternoon? Maybe I need a longer lunch break. Maybe I need to go for a run before class. And it allows them to really think about what works best for them and advocate for themselves. And you as parents being able to have those amazing conversations. So that's kind of what choice is in a nutshell. But I think it at least kind of starts the understanding of what homeschooling is. And it allows you to start those conversations, because sometimes it's hard when maybe one parent wants to homeschool, but the other one's like, heck no. So this allows us to have a really great conversation about what homeschooling really would look like for your family.
I like that. I might need to have a meeting so Dr. Berry can understand what the
Oh,
choice is.
Lord.
He's the one that's stalling the process over here.
Yes.
Which part of the choice model do you see families struggle with the most? I know you said the community aspect. Is
Yeah.
that it? And if so, how do you help them navigate that?
Yeah, I think they struggle with the two C's probably the most. So the C for the education part, because they are really freaked out about curriculum. And I'm like, you don't have to be like for real. It's not that deep. Because at the end of the day, if you find that you start a curriculum and then you don't like it, you can just switch. One year my son wanted hands-on science, and I was like, I can do this. I like science. After we killed like some frogs because my husband decided to duct tape the aquarium because they were jumping out. We had like we thought it was cute when they were tadpoles, but once they became frogs and they jumped out the tank, he said, "We'll just put tape on it." I was like, "I don't think that works." We all learned a science lesson that day that they will suffocate. And I said, "We're done with this. We're done. We've killed the frog." So no, so we just decided to change, and we went to more a virtual hands-on. So we do experiments here and there, but most of it's virtual so that we don't, be out here hurting the animals. So it isn't like you have to be locked in. So education, that customized education piece kind of scares folks. And then that community and connections, like you said, is also a place where people are nervous, especially for my single parents out there who want to homeschool, because they're like, well, they think they're going to be lonely in the process, but then they also feel like their kid won't be socialized. They're like, well, my kid's just going to be in here with me. And it's like, no, like you can make those opportunities. We've done Boy Scouts, we've done Girl Scouts, we've done 4-H, we've done gymnastics and baseball and basketball and all kind of other activities where the kids are definitely doing things with their peers out in the community, learning, connecting. They go to camp, they do all kind of stuff. And I think your child can be as socialized as you want. But let's also be clear, your child wasn't that socialized in public school. They've taken away a lot of recess, and most of the day your child is told to be quiet, raise their hand, and they're just speaking to a teacher, and that's it. They're maybe talking a few minutes at the lunch table, but your child's going to be way more socialized if you have them home and you are creating some amazing socializing opportunities. And like I said, there's a lot of support for you as a parent as well. So you definitely don't have to be alone. Oftentimes I'm like, I want to stay at home because we're a little too socialized. So those are probably the two areas that people struggle on, that the education piece, and then really understanding that they do have community. It does take a little bit of effort, but I promise you there are people out there ready to support you.
Hmm. Thank you so much, Cori. As we wrap up, what is one message you want to leave with Black parents who are thinking about homeschooling or just stepping into homeschooling?
Yeah, so if I had to leave you with one thought, it would be, if you are thinking about homeschooling and you're saying, could this be right for my family? I want you to think about what you've already dealing with, right? You're like, well, I might struggle to homeschool my child, but you're already struggling now. Your student is already struggling, because if not, you wouldn't be thinking about this at all. So would it be more beneficial for you to keep struggling in the same system that hasn't been working for your child, or try something new? Because at the end of the day, if homeschooling doesn't work for you, you can always send them back to school. Let's be clear, they will accept your child back, but just give it a shot. Like I said, think about the possibilities of what it would look like if you weren't constantly being called by the school. If your child had confidence around their education, if your child was empowered to be the learner that they could possibly be, if you were able to customize their environment to better suit their needs, right? Their sensory needs, their sound needs, their education needs. Like, what could that look like for your child? And if the positive column wins out for homeschool, I would say just give it a try. I'm here to support you. Autism and Black is here to support you. You don't have to do this alone. But like I said, what you've been doing probably hasn't been working. And it's okay to be ready to try something else.
Mm, I love that. Now, where can the people find you if they want to start with the choice framework, if they need some help in figuring out what is going to help their family?
Yeah, so in the show notes of this video, I'll make sure that Autism and Black's team gets this information. There will be a free just homeschool consultation call. I love doing these because I get that you have some specific questions about your specific kiddos. And so I allow about 30 minutes, totally free, not trying to sell you anything, where you can just ask me all the questions specific to you and your family. And then I also have a little transitional guide that I can offer you as well, totally free, that just walks you through the steps of kind of planning your transition. Because again, I'm here to be a part of your community. You don't have to do this alone. So you definitely can connect with me there. And then I'm on social media. I show the kids, I show a bit of our homeschool journey and me as a working mom, homeschooling and doing all the things. So if you just want to check in and see like, what are these crazy people doing? You can always find me on your social media just under my name, Cori Fonville Foster.
And like she said, it'll all be in the show notes so you guys can connect with her and start your homeschooling journey. Cori, thank you so much for blessing us with this episode. It was very informative. I know that we're probably going to be getting our own consultation because we got to bring Dr. Berry on to the good side of homeschooling, because I'm sick of these schools at this point. So thank you. And for our listeners, thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Autism in Black podcast, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
If you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe to our podcast so you can always be notified when a new episode drops. To get the resources shared on today's podcast and the show notes, make sure to go to autisminblack.org/podcast. Don't forget to share your takeaways from the show on your IG stories and Twitter using our official hashtag AIBpod so that we can find and share them. If you want to continue the conversation from today's episode, join our Autism in Black podcast Facebook community at facebook.com/group/AIBpod.